Now that you know how to find documents that you want to transcribe, the next thing to think about is how to actually transcribe them. And what I mean by that is keeping in mind that this is a crowdsourced project with dozens, if not hundreds of people working on it at any given time. It's really important that we all approach these documents and our approach to transcription in a similar way so that we have some consistency with the output of this. So to that end, there are a few sort of guiding principles to follow and some tools at your disposal to help you make decisions about how to transcribe. So let me show you, first of all, a few of the things you're going to likely run into very quickly, especially when you're working with colonial era material. So this is an item that I've uploaded to the Harvard University Archives collection on FromThePage from the trustees of the Charity of Edward Hopkins. And I know that this page here, page 3, is a really useful example. So the first guiding principle is that you should transcribe what you see. And what I mean by that is look at the page and just transcribe as it appears. And let me go ahead and do that a little bit, and you'll see that we will immediately run into some issues. So, may it please your honors, see that. Adding a line break to sort of start a new section. I am by necessity. So already, with colonial era documents, if you're not familiar with them, this is an interesting character. This is the long S, which is a very common colonial convention of writing, which is to use this almost F-like character as an S. And you can see it's N-E-C-E-S-S-I-T-Y. So the first S of the two is this longer F-like S. You're going to see that a lot, and that's something that you just need to be familiar with and on the lookout for. And you should transcribe it not as an F, but as an S, because it is an S. So you can see that I have transcribed it as an S. So I'll continue here. So I am by necessity constrained. So we've already got another thing here. Constrained, we would normally spell with an ED like so. He has written it without an ED. You should transcribe what you see. Don't correct their spelling to constrained with an ED. Just put it exactly as you see it here. To make APPLI. So obviously the word is cut off, and it's the word application that's split. Here, put a single return and continue the word again, just as you see it. I'll come to this one. So I am by necessity constrained to make application to you. So the word application is split across 2 lines in the original, and you should maintain that split on the transcription. One nice thing about FromThePage is that on export, these line breaks can be rejoined, and it will recognize this as the word application. So if you were to search for the word application later, it would know that that is one word that is split across. And here's another example. So the next word in this sentence is relief, and you can see that again it is not spelled how we would spell it. It is spelled R-E-L-E-I-F-E, which we would consider a misspelling, but you should transcribe it as you see it and continue. So that's really number 1 principle. I'm going to stop with this one and just go ahead and save it. The idea being here that don't be making corrections to people's spelling, and transcribe what you see on the page. Now a more complicated example. This is some papers from the Papers of William Dandridge Peck collection that's at the Harvard University Archives. And if you open the first page of this one, you are immediately faced with some interesting challenges just looking at it. One is that this is fairly easy to read. Mr. Proctor informs me that, and so on. But as you go down, you notice that this is not one continuous sentence or one continuous line down the page. Instead, there's sort of 4 or 5 notes on this page that are somewhat independent and spaced out. So a second guiding principle is that we're not interested in preserving or transcribing the form of the document. It's not important to try to capture the fact that this note here is to the left of this note here. What is important is that we capture all of the text that's on the page. So as you do this, the way to think about it when you're transcribing is to really think in conceptual chunks. Try to get in the head of William Dandridge Peck and understand what he's doing with this document. So you might transcribe this first bit here, which is very clearly of one paragraph of a piece, put 2 line breaks, and then transcribe this next bit, which is talking about description. You might then put 2 line breaks and put this third, 2 line breaks and put this fourth, and so on, and finish it up here. So you'll end up with, say, sort of 5 paragraphs of text that all run down the page. That doesn't approximate the layout of this page. It completely misses this sketch here, and that's fine. FromThePage does not have the ability to capture sketches in this way, and I don't think it is worthwhile for us to work with that. You might, though, look at this sketch, and given what you learn about what Peck is discussing here, which is botany, flowers, you can tell that this is the word style and stamen, and a drawing. You might want to put the word style and stamen within the document on their own line, just because they're clearly their own thing here. And finally, I'll show you one that's already been transcribed that also gets at some of these interesting conventions that we have. So let me quickly show you immediately this word here, which is laziness, L-A-Z-I-N-E-S-S. Again, you've got the long S. And someone who has transcribed this one has marked it with a question mark. It is not a question. So I'm going to edit that. That's definitely the word laziness, and save changes. Another thing here that the person who has edited this before me has done is things like, you can see on the transcription, capturing the strikethrough or the deleted text. So William Croswell, the writer of this letter, started to write the word Mercator and marked it out and put map instead. This is captured in the transcription, and that is done by using these strikethrough tags, which are just plain HTML tags that the document can take. So these are just some examples to illustrate how people are approaching these documents and how to think about what you might encounter with colonial documents. What's really important is that a lot of this is documented on the Transcribing Harvard Library project website, which I will post the link below for you to access. And really, there's lots of valuable information here. The Conventions tab is where all of the things I just discussed are documented in more detail and explanation of how to approach them. So capitalization, spelling, dealing with contractions and punctuation and line breaks, as I showed, all of that is really detailed in text here, so you can follow up and make sure you understand what you're doing. Likewise, in the CNA section of the project website, this is a growing section, but there are some colonial clues here, so I talk a little bit about the long S to help you recognize those, and some of these abbreviations you might encounter and how you should think about transcribing them. One really important thing to note is to not get hung up on all of this. We want to follow conventions, we want to do this consistently, but it's really more important to just make progress and transcribe what you see on the page. If you have questions, you can send them in. Happy to try to answer them. You can hunt around on this project website for answers. You can also just transcribe it how you think it should be done, use your best judgment, and move on. We're not looking for perfection here. We're just looking to work together to build a transcription.